One of the books that made our 2016 Top 20 Nigerian Books list is a novel titled Kings and Not Slaves. It's written by Ola Osibodu. It's a book set in the 1700s about the dynamics of the slave trade era. If you plan to read a few fiction titles in 2017, this is a novel you may seriously want to consider reading. Today, Ola Osibodu joins us on Channel's Book Club to review his novel and discuss matters related to its theme. Enjoy this. Ola, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you for having me, Kunle.
Yeah. Kings and Not Slaves. Thoroughly enjoyed reading it.
Thank you very
And
much.
that's a very honest assessment. I really enjoyed reading it.
Thank you.
What I liked most about your book is the way you went from one culture to another, telling the story of that great sojourner, Sangu, right?
Yeah, Sangu.
The king. Okay, but let's, for the sake of viewers who are not very familiar, let's do a broad overview of your book. Tell me about Kings and Not Slaves.
The story revolves around Sangu, Prince Sangu, whose father is the king of a kingdom called Yakunda. And Sangu gets captured and is deported, to the United States as a slave. And while, during his years in slavery, he had this mindset of, being a king, being of royal blood.
Because his background was royalty.
And so he refused to accept that, reality of being a slave. And throughout the story, he looked for several ways to return back to Africa and then take his rightful place on the throne, which he eventually did after several struggles.
So many interesting struggles. I always like to hear the story behind the book. The little hints you provided was that you were living overseas, and then you observed certain things. Tell me more a bit about that.
I mean, I obviously had seen some things. I'd say once I experienced racism, real racism. I was at a McDonald's store and this white guy came in.
Was that in Europe?
Yes,
or in
America?
Europe,
in the United Kingdom. And this white guy came in and, he wanted to buy burger and fries. And the lady over the till could not hear what he was saying because she was from Nigeria. And the guy got mad and was raving all over the place and called her all sorts of names. And, at that moment, he lifted up, or he balled his fist and he said something. He said, white, if I can remember very well, he said, white power will rule you forever. So, that day I went home.
He said that?
Yes, white power.
And that was in a public place?
Yes, in a public place. So white power will rule you forever. And then I went home that day and, I kept on thinking and thinking, what does it mean, white power? So then I started reading. This was like 2006. I started reading on issues like this and, this is the results, as you can see.
Wow. Somebody listening to you will probably think you've written a very deep, non-fiction book.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of entertainment in your
there
book.
Is,
the story of Sangu, sorry, the king, I think that's his name, is very enlightening. Tell me what kind of research did you do to create that scenery, that Yamunda African scenery?
Yes.
Because there was a lot of superstition, a lot of religion. The medicine man, Manga. Sorry, I forgot those names. Manga. So the medicine man, the superstition, the fact that if it did not rain on a particular day, there will be a curse on the land. Then the curse on king himself. What kind of research went into all that for you? Or did your background help?
Yes, my background helped in a bit because I'm actually from Ijebu, and I go to my hometown a lot, so I hear all these stories, and that helped me, weave together this story. However, I wanted to write something that would really feel African, something that would make the African man or woman today actually take pride in being African. And that's made me do a lot of research. That made me do a lot of thinking, and all what you see there is fiction. However, I try to make it as original as possible.
Fiction based on reality.
Yeah, based on reality, yeah.
Okay. And then you then switched to America.
Yeah.
Because the central character was captured and then taken as a slave to America.
Yeah.
And then you now began to describe the plantations of America during the slave trade era and so on. That was very interesting.
Yeah. As for that, you can't have a slave story. You can't have a complete slave story if you do not write about, the plantation life in America. So what I did in that regard was, I tried to, think. I tried to imagine what could suffering look like on the plantation, on an American plantation. Still keeping in mind that I had a plot. Still keeping in mind that, my central character, Sango, must move through that plot and, must reach his end goal. So, all what I did there was pure imagination. However, was also based on things I had read from other sources as well, reading books like Roots and, books like...
Yeah, I guess you must have probably read Roots or something.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay, I think we lose a lot of our stories.
Yeah.
And this does a good job of attempting to capture the story of the black man, and slavery, slave trade, and all that. One last thing. One of the things I have noticed about the narratives about slave trade is that people often talk about the British and the Europeans who came in and grabbed people and turned them into slaves. But the other aspect of the story that people hardly talk about are the local chiefs and leaders.
Absolutely.
Who took their own people.
Absolutely.
And sold them for drinks and guns and and all that.
Mirror.
Yeah. But I noticed your story tried to strike that balance.
Yes. I mean, the beauty of any good story is the balance. You've got to create that equilibrium in your story. So, of course, doing my research, I thought to myself and I said, it couldn't have been possible for, the Americans and the Europeans to have taken about 10 million Africans away from Africa without, conniving with, our own people here in Africa, obviously. So I read further and got me to, people like, I'll say the Ijebus, how they enslaved people from Abeokuta. Of course, the white man played a role in between them because he actually supplied the Ijebus with guns and gave them the wherewithal to actually carry out such drastic acts. So, yes, very much, you're very right, and that's one of the things I try to capture very well in the story, because we can't keep pointing fingers and say, the white man enslaved us. We need to look at our own selves and say, look, what damage are we doing to ourselves, as well.
Ola, so much to talk about. Thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you.
And keep writing.
Thank you for having me.
Keep writing.
Thank you.
We have been announcing our Meet the Authors Forum, where 3 non-fiction authors will be having a question and answer session with 50 of you, our viewers. The 3 authors have written about money and business, so the forum will focus on those topics. You still have a chance to be one of the 50. All you need to do is to send us an email requesting to be a part of it and tell us why you should be there. Our email address is displayed on your screen. However, we have a slight change in plans. The forum was initially scheduled to hold on the 18th of February 2017, but due to a few unforeseen circumstances, we are postponing the event to a date we'll be announcing soon. For those already looking forward to it, don't you worry. We plan to make it better and more exciting. Please stay tuned to get the updates on the show. Thank you once again for watching today. Feel free to join us on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.